spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
Hello. How are you?
Good. Aaron, you have a beautiful voice. I thought you were doing the Sound of Music. Hello. How are you? I don't know if you've been hanging out with your son too much. You sound amazing.
No, but you know what I did this weekend? And my son just clowned me so much. So if you don't know, my son and my daughter are both insane singers. They both have landed leads and they're in so many musicals. But I am not an insane singer. I think it's in their DNA for me, but I'm not. So there's this thing on TikTok. You know, I love TikTok where you can duet people. So a lot of the big time producers will make kind of beats so the Pelotonics had a duet to Frosty the Snowman. So I had my AirPods on and I thought I wasn't going to post it. I just thought it'd be fun to do it. And honestly, I didn't know any of my kids were around. And so I was just, practicing my little duet game. And I thought maybe I'll just get one good one and be able to post it. And I didn't think it, and nobody said anything to me about it. And then later we were in the car and the whole family, and Debbie goes, you can play that duet for us, Mom? And I was like, I hate you so much, but I love you so much. But no, they're such good singers. I wish I was. How are you?
Doing good. So when I talk to Julie, my wife, I'll throw in slang and she's like, where do you hear that? And it's only from you because you're cool and you have kids that are also cool. And I guess I don't hang out with anyone that's trending on things that are cool. And so I appreciate your vocabulary.
I am not cool. I want to tell you this really quick story because I think you're going to realize how uncool we are together. But I'm not cool. And so my kids kept saying all these words that I absolutely didn't understand. And so I was like, let's make a TikTok about the words. You know me and TikToks. Let's make a TikTok about the words. And the kids will say a word and we'll try to guess what they are, right? So first they said cap. Do you know what cap means?
It means no BS or
it's a lie. Cap is a lie. So
guess what I did?
Cap is no lie.
I Googled it with my wife on the couch before we went to bed at 9 p.m.
I love it. And then they said drip. And Janae's playing along, right? She's like, I'm like, I don't know what drip is. That means your outfit, right? So she's playing along, making me not feel so old. And then a few weeks later, I was doing some Facebook stalking of before Janae and I were together. And literally there's a picture of her in a shirt that says drip. And I'm like, excuse me, what is this? I thought you didn't know what drip meant. And she goes, oh, I just didn't want you to be the only one that felt old and uncool.
Oh, that's sweet.
Wasn't that kind of nice? But I'm kind of mad at her. Hey, guess what? If you are here, we've already got a bunch of people on here. Say hello. Tell us who you're excited. Are you watching from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube? Joshua's here and he says, welcome back, Scott.
If he's still listening, I have to say he had an insane week last week. And so I never talk about my business. Josh is one of my partners and good friends. In 1 week, he does what most people do in a year. So just timing's everything in life. So you just got to keep it going. You never know. And they all hit at once.
I love it. Well, thank you for watching, Joshua. John says, DWL Nation, and welcome back, Scott. Joining you from I-35 through the Flint Hills. What better way to spend 2 hours in the car? I hope you're not driving, John.
He is, but that's awesome. Thank you, John.
A passenger.
Maybe
thank
he's
you
a
for
passenger.
listening. Maybe he's just listening. Just be safe and drive. There's our legal. So I am super excited. You want to talk about what we're doing afterwards? We're going to hang out with some cool people.
We're hanging out. She hates it when I do this, so I'm going to say it again. We're hanging out with our boss, Beth, who works with Bank of Blue Valley across the entire portfolio in the country. And a lot of people don't realize that Bank of Blue Valley in Kansas City is a top 5 bank. So when you think of Commerce UMB, not trying to give them some free PR, but a lot of times we think of Blue Valley as a community bank, and they're working with some of the biggest organizations in Kansas City. And as a business nerd like me that never misses an article in the Business Journal, we don't oftentimes get to hear about all the banks like Bank of Blue Valley that are just doing huge things all throughout the city with the biggest companies and nationwide companies as well.
So we're going to go hang out with Beth, and then she's going to introduce us to a new friend. So I'm really excited to go hang out in Scott's super secret place we're going to hang out. So, all right, look, we got a couple more people, and then we've got to get to our panel. Our panel is so
Don't
amazing.
make me sound creepy. They're speakeasies that are businesses. So yeah, don't make me sound weird. It's a bar.
I mean, I didn't know what I was supposed to say. I started the conversation and then I was trying to back. Nobody thinks you're creepy. Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah,
Jeff
well, now that I'm good.
Hola, LinkedIn. Looking good, Aaron and Scott. Thanks, Jeff. Nick says, hey, friends. Hey, Nick. And Neil says, hello, friends. What a great way to pregame for KU UTEP tonight. Go Jayhawks, right? All right. Are you ready to get to our panel? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I don't think we're going to have to say much for this panel because they are very, very good at what they do. And they're very, very popular based upon their LinkedIn post and the amount of guests we have on the show right now.
Also, so if you have questions, get them in now so that we can ask them. Nothing's worse than going back later and seeing a bunch of questions we couldn't get to. So, all right, our first guest today is Jill. Hi, Jill.
Hello.
Our second guest is the one, the only, Luke Ellis.
Hey, guys.
How are you? Are you ready for this next guy? He's got oh God, he's such a better radio voice than we are. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Chris.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah,
Go soft.
and last but certainly not least, we've got Anthony. Hello.
Hey,
Anthony.
how's everybody doing? He does have a good radio voice. Man,
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't he have a good radio voice? It's like this.
way to go,
It's
Chris.
so good. So good. Well, hello, everybody. We were so excited to have y'all join us and start connecting because these people you're going to be blown away by. Let's just jump right in. Jill, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
First up, huh? Well, I'm Jill Minton, and I have kind of made my way to Kansas City over the years. Grew up in Western Kansas, went to K-State, and then spent some time in LA with E&Y, and then came back to Kansas City and joined KPMG, and then left the Big Four consulting world to start my own business. So I ran my own business, built a line of fast casual health cafes here in Kansas City called T-Loft over a series of years. And then, yes, super fun. It was a really cool and great experience. Whole nother story. Brought on partners towards the end and didn't go out like we would have liked, but it was an amazing business, an amazing venture for a lot of years. So, and then I am now did business coaching and consulting for a couple of years. And now over the past year, I've joined EFL, Executive Search Associates. So helping other companies find their next best leaders now. So driving on all that IT consulting experience in the Big Four and building my own business and helping other businesses find their next best leaders. So it's been a really cool ride.
Kansas City's so small. For years, people said we should meet each other, and I just now put it together that we should meet, right?
Right.
So awesome. Well, welcome. I know Scott's got some follow-up questions because we're super excited to have you on the show.
I always call EFL the mob because everything at a high level executive flows through your organization. So, you know, if you're at a company, call it over 50 employees or 50 million in revenue, they're looking like a CFO, chief operating officer, CEO, they flow through your organization. So how has your organization developed that reputation and brand to be Kansas City's best or one of the best at what you do?
Oh, well, that's so great to hear. You know, Jay Meshke has really been the driving force in that over many, many years. And they have built it on solid practice and just being, and that's what drew me to them, was just amazing professionals, extremely great at what they do, insane connections, just, and a great reputation. I mean, you ask around and just constantly good feedback, and people have just been impressed with what they do. And so that they've built that connection over time and just have, you know, people continue to work with them and continue to pull people in. And so I was drawn to that. So they just have over the years built a really great network and have a great reputation because they've just done things honest and right throughout all the years. So.
Yeah, I'll let Aaron ask the last question, but there's been a guest, Jake Randall, that's been on the show, and he opened a series of donut shops throughout Kansas City. And then yourself, where the Business Journal allowed you to tell your story in an authentic way. And I thought that, you know, that's the great thing about the Business Journal, who's super nice to Aaron and I, is they don't just talk about KC Southern or Sprint. They allow you to, if you're a business owner, no matter what your size, to tell your story. So do you want to talk a little bit about the Business Journal kind of sharing your story and your journey?
Yeah, you know, the Business Journal was amazing to us all throughout our business. And this Kansas City community, I mean, talk about just an incredible community to rally behind an entrepreneur and a passion and a mission. And we had people follow us we actually tested the concept of the farmers market in Overland Park way back in the day, 2012. And people told us we were crazy, like Kansas City's a steak and potato town. They have no interest in spending $7 on a juice. And we were like, I believe different. I knew there was a whole healthy component, health enthusiast out there. And so I was like, we were determined to find them. I created out of my own health crisis. We found out we had celiac disease in our family and was determined to change and make a change. It felt like there was nothing in Kansas City. So I started dreaming and scheming and putting the whole thing together. And the Business Journal followed us along the way and shared our story and was so incredible to us. And I attribute the Kansas City Star for really our day one success. I mean, they put in an article about us that we were opening on a Saturday and we were doing our soft opening, and they wrote a story about it, and we had a line out the door all day, sold out of everything by halfway through the day. And so I attribute them to really just rallying behind the local entrepreneur and the local person with a mission. So they were really incredible to us. And yes, even to the end, of us sharing our story of our journey, our entrepreneurial journey. So
what year did you open?
2013.
Okay. Because say the Kansas City Star, because they've kind of gone through their own journey the past few years too, right?
Yeah.
I've been fascinated. I almost feel like they're focusing more on local business now than I've ever seen. So that's amazing to hear they were in 2013 as well.
Yeah, they were great. And then, we sold it in 2019. So a wild ride.
Well, we're excited to hear about what you've been doing the past year. Luke, we're going to transition over to you. Who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City? And what's the best birthday party you've ever been to?
The best birthday party I've ever been to? Oh, boy. That's a tough one. I'll start with who I am. Well, it's Aaron Fulks, of course. I forgot I even went to
Luke
that.
was our last guest at my
Yep. I just somehow snuck into her surprise party, and she didn't even know I was coming at all.
Surprise.
Yeah, her house. So, it was interesting. So I'm Luke Ellis. I'm president and CEO of ReVera Capital. We're a small to mid-market investment bank here in Kansas City. So we pretty much try to help business owners and other entrepreneurs who are looking to buy or sell a company, raise capital, strategic advisory, things like that. What brought me to Kansas City? Well, business did. I love the business community here. I think that was one of the driving forces. So about 4 years ago, I started coming down to Kansas City, and that turned into a weekly endeavor. I've got my 4-year-old daughter up in Omaha. So I tried to sneak back to see her and really just grabbed a hold of the professional network here and the great business community that's been built, and have loved it ever since. And so we now headquarter here in KC and call it home, pretty much, other than the week I go back to see my daughter once a month.
That was really fast. That wasn't 5 to 7 minutes like you were told.
I know that was like what, 2, maybe 3?
Scott, go with your follow-up questions.
So, it's interesting that Jill shared, her story. And one thing that Luke does is he helps organizations kind of structure those deals before they even begin, to, a variety of different things for upside and for downside for all parties. And Luke, we joke around all the time that, not that you're insanely intelligent, but other people, if they had 1,000 at bats over a decade or 15 years, they could do a little bit of what you do. But there's so few people that have your investment banking experience to understand how to structure deals. Most of us only structure one deal, if any deal, our whole lives. So how do you go about communicating to your clients, when something's really complicated? The understanding of, that you've done it before. Do you relate it to other things, or do you, how do you deliver the news to structure stuff?
Well, that's a good question. I think it depends on the sophistication of a client and how experienced they are in that space. And we really try to break it down to the most simple, transparent terms I think you can of, hey, this is what this means. And we really try to fill that void between what I'll call the legal jargon that attorneys throw out and the real life business situations that arise from those. And so, really just trying to understand where that client's trying to go, understand the complexity of their situation, because every little piece of those transactions or those deals matter. And then really trying to work with their legal team to make sure we get the client informed and educated on what they need to do to make the right decisions. And quite frankly, as you look at each situation and each deal that comes up, it changes every time. The smallest little details can end up be the one that hampers a business from growing or from partners working together. And so we try to go over all those scenarios and really just talk about what the likelihood of success or failure is, in real business terms.
Is it harder to do the financial structure that takes 15 years to master, or the psychology of how much money who gets?
Well, I'd say the finance side's pretty easy for me now. Now that I've done it so many times, so I think the psychology of humans is always the most complex beast that we deal with. And really, I think the biggest thing that we try to do is eliminate the emotionality of it, because it is stressful. It can be turned on its head in an instant. And we just try to calm everybody down and really work through all those terms, because 95% of the time, most people aren't intending to, hurt their business partner or the seller or buyer in a situation. They just think they can grab more than they can.
Yeah, it's like you should collaborate with divorce attorneys on psychological, because it business partners get petty when there's a lot of money on the line. And so I always feel like you go into it thinking there's so much to learn, and then it's just really psychology after a while. Aaron, I don't know about you, but besides Luke being the best surprise birthday party guest of all time,
The best. I asked him what was the best.
The greatest. Absolutely the greatest.
I was kidding. Luke's a great friend of mine. That's fine. What were you going to ask me, Scott?
I was going to say, what parting question do you have for Luke as we transition?
Well, I think that my biggest question is, as a small business owner, I have felt recently that I'm getting phone call after phone call after phone call going, are you ready to sell? 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 Right. And it feels like more than ever. So is this landscape we're in, do you see that going up, or are there just more people getting into your business and they're just not good at it? Like, is there just so much demand, or is there just more people in your business that just aren't as probably suave as you, that they're just making these nonstop cold calls? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a regular occurrence for a business owner to get called, especially when you get to a certain size or scale. I will tell you, there are a lot of quote unquote posers out there that step into this because they see, the amount of revenue that can be made on a transaction. But they also think it's very easy and it's going to just take a phone call or two and we magically get paid. Never works out that way. There's a lot of details that got to go into that. We fight that battle every day with clients and say, hey, this is going to take 6 to 12 months. And they every time try to speed it up and try to come to us and say, well, we can do it in 2, can't we? And we go, no, it's, on average going to take 6 to 12 months. So just get used to it. And then, I think for those owners out there, the biggest thing that we try to tell folks is, hey, come and talk to us. You don't have to sell right now. We're not going to pressure you into that. We're just going to try to sit down and understand your objectives, because Aaron, in your situation, you may have an emotional objective that's going to hit. You may have a cash flow objective or a revenue objective, or you may just find a great partner. And we try to break that down and really talk about, hey, are you doing this because you like the people who called you, or are you doing it because you genuinely want to sell? And so I think it's definitely a balance of that emotionality along with the logic of what they're looking for.
Luke, I always think of you as a triple threat. I'll let Aaron train this, but it's I can hear as you're talking. It's one, you ask really direct questions. So then people are like, whoa, because you're super transparent, but yet you're intelligent enough to break it down and funny enough to go to the next subject. So speaking of transitions, you are a triple threat, and you can go full life cycle in a conversation.
You are way overselling me on this broadcast, Scott, I got to say.
All right, with that, Chris, with the great voice, who are you? What do you do? How do you get to Kansas City? And how did you learn to have that voice?
I might have been born with it. So Chris Batz, owner of the Lion Group. We're executive and legal recruiters, mostly in the legal space. Place everything from chief legal officers and general counsel down to paralegals for corporations in the region, but kind of New York to California. We do it all. Also place compliance professionals. And we also place corporate law partners. So the big law firms to boutiques, we've got specific clients that we place law partners in groups and help firms open through that kind of expansion. So been doing it for going on almost 12 years now. So I've had the company for 11 actually, I think it's 11 already. And have a team, Denny and Zach, that work with me. And it's been wild this past year. So the talent market is on fire. A little bit more, I finally accepted everyone's compliments and started my own podcast with this voice. So I joke my dad went to school to be a DJ to develop a voice like this, and I was born with it. So I probably have to give credit to my dad through the genes of somehow that happening. But I interview legal executives around the United States. Again, general counsel, even to law school deans and former SEC officials. 59 episodes, 37,000 downloads, and we're about to rebrand and kind of take it to the next level where I'm going to continue helping executives take their careers to places that they may never have seen before. So, for example, there's an episode I'm going to release hopefully in January who is former law partner of Cat Mushin. She was the general counsel of a first-time role in a commodities or futures trading company. She's now the CEO. So helping attorneys find ways to get to those executive levels. So it's fun, and I love working with lawyers, believe it or not.
Chris, when I gave the comment about Jill's company, I was talking about executive. I'm not talking about on the legal side. I was like, I didn't really mean to like throw staffing there on the bus, but what a beautiful business. I mean, I would assume you've almost tripled or at least doubled in size this year. So you got to be really excited. Were you expecting all of this growth in 2021, or how's the whirlwind going, or was it?
And
hard
how
to
weird
find
was it to come in from 2020 where there wasn't much growth at the beginning, right? It was kind of scary in your space.
So I'm not sure if any of us knew that COVID was coming in March 2020. If you were, we probably should talk. But no, I mean, it's been a wild ride, and I've hired 3 and 1 worked out. So what we do is hard. It's not an easy business. So I relate with Jill in that sense of it's a hard business, and it's fun. It's relationship building. But right now, there's a lot of counter offers. There's pay inflation. It's basically the housing market for talent. And so we're trying to be as very candid and very honest with our clients. I'm turning down work because people are not paying their people enough. And I have no interest in recruiting again if they lose them. And so we're working with winning clients and placing amazing talent. But we're busy and it's great. So we're going to continue growing. We probably could be looking at doubling this next year. Awesome. It's, this is a transactional business. So, there's no residual income when it comes to this. You wake up the next morning and you hope to continue to perform and deliver value to your clients and build amazing relationships and keep the lights on. So, but it's a lot of fun.
Okay, I have a couple quick questions. Can I ask my questions? Okay, one, I do a ton of work in the legal world, and it's not a place I ever saw myself ending up, but it's a place I ended up really liking, right? How did you end up in legal world? And then also, hiring is my least favorite part of having a company. It's like the absolute least favorite part. So give me like 1 or 2 tips that just make you like enjoy it a little bit more, maybe like enjoy the whole process of it.
Yeah. So going back to your first question, how did I land in legal? I have a background in public accounting, and but I didn't want to recruit accountants. Bless all my accounting friends, but their attorneys are a lot more interesting and are brilliant and work a really long life. And I've hardly, on one hand, met jerks, believe it or not, with the amount of attorneys I relate with. And it's so much joy working with them. They're brilliant individuals. And I work with corporate lawyers, so I don't work with plaintiffs. I don't work with folks that focus on individuals unless it's trust and estate, high net worth folks. And so I learn continuously. I've learned about things I never thought I'd learn about, and it has transformed my life because of the way I get to learn from all the attorneys I work with, and the people I get to meet. To answer your second question, to how I had this, I met a woman who placed law partner placements back in 2010. It was a really rough year to start in the business because of the recession, but she gave me a chance, and I would work 12-hour days and couldn't go to sleep. I was having so much fun. So a lot of the business is swinging for the fences, and we've modified a bit of that and done a lot more corporate legal department recruiting right now. So it's less of that, but it's still just so much fun to meet people and build a relationship. In regards to hiring and how to make it fun, it would have a lot depend on you, Aaron, and what matters to you and what that hire means to you and where you're going and what's important to you. So I'll just talk about my team. Like, we're hiring and we need really great people, but I need people who are going to raise the standard of what we do as a company, because we've got high standards, and we need people who are enthusiastic, who are outgoing, who are crazy detailed, who verbally process, and who love to build relationship and deliver outstanding value and go to the 11th mile. And so it really has a lot to do with you. Who do you need on your team to complement what you need so that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and letting someone else who's better at something do what they should be doing for you? And so it's multiplying capacity, it's multiplying your gifts, it's expanding your company, and it's adding people that help continue to transform and add to the value and brand of your company and what you've done. And so it's very intimate. It's very exciting, and it can be emotional and tough at the same time, depending on who's on your team and who's working with you in it. So hiring people is tough. People business is a tough business. But when you find the right person, which the recruiters know how to ask the right questions who are the right fit, because it's not just about the resume, it's really about how they fit into your culture and what you really need and what's important to help make this role a success 12 months from now or 3 years from now. And we help expand that vision and say, okay, if you had that person who did the things you wanted them to do, what would that look like for you? And so it's less, of course, it's a pain point. Sales is either pleasure or pain. There's a lot of pain in hiring, but we're here to help make it both. We're fixing the pain and we're making it exciting. So I hope that helps.
I do. I think that's there's probably a lot of people like me. That's why your industry is doing so well too, right? Like, because you guys do enjoy it, and you enjoy the process of finding the right people. So I mean, I'm sold on it. Okay. Hold on. I think you should hire someone to hire for you. So I like that idea. All right, Anthony, you've been so patient. So who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
So patient, said no one. I would argue my wife would never call me patient, but
just flip that out of here and be like, see,
see, Aaron said it. So Anthony Clervi, I've been in Kansas City now for almost 12 years. Married, have 2 kiddos. I got a 4-year-old boy, 2-year-old girl, and I came to Kansas City on a job through a good friend, and I started working for a company called Service Magic, now called Home Advisor. Give them a little shout out. Good organization.
Are they still Home Advisor, or did they sell again? Didn't they become?
No, Home Advisor was owned by IAC. They actually bought a company called Angie's List, and so I think it's like Home Advisor,
something
Angie.
Like that. They merged. Yeah.
I can't give up. Yeah, there's still some good folks over there. So yeah, they're doing a good job. And then from there, I realized, hey, being an employee, that's not for me. And so I took a consulting job for Sears with a company within Sears called Service Live, and realized really quickly that the home leads business that now Home Advisor, at the time you have all these complaints, the organization needs to do this, they need to do that. And then I get into a smaller organization and realize how far behind they are from a technology standpoint. So that was a nice life learning lesson. I was traveling every week from San Antonio to Alpharetta in Georgia. And that was like that was probably, 7, 8 years ago. Traveling every week. It was cool for the first week, and then I quickly realized, wow, let's figure something out. How can I increase my skills and value in the marketplace? So maybe I go when I want to go. And then that actually gave me the opportunity to co-found Una, which is a group purchasing organization. We help private businesses and healthcare organizations literally save money. We position ourselves as a kind of a complementary procurement resource, which essentially our mission is to accelerate their profitability. And if we're doing our job right, which I'll get into that a little bit about what UNA does, but ultimately we have leveraged contracts at a national level. It's a lot of firms that we all know and organizations, and we're able to help organizations buy at a level that they can't buy on their own. But what we love about it is if we're doing our job right, we're literally talking about recruiting and personnel. We're saving folks, organizations, big and small, anywhere from 15 to 20%, which can usually leads to six figures. In some of these, I would say not so sexy categories. But if we're doing it right, that allows for people to either get raises or for those procurement teams to hire other people. So we like to look at the domino effect of some of the things that we can do from a mission standpoint. I came to Kansas City, like I said, for a job and realized I wanted a different career path. I will liken the folks that have shared the running a business sounds so cool. And I would say the entrepreneurship path, as you stated, Aaron, I mean, hiring folks, I would say the process of hiring folks can be difficult because you don't really know who you hired until maybe you have to let them go, which is kind of painful, but true. But look, I mean, there's an adage, hire slowly and, fire quickly. And we actually kind of like to ramp that up, hire quickly and then, promote even faster. And we just try to think about things just a little bit differently. We've got a fun organization. We've got 10 folks. We're all young and hungry. Most of us are here in Kansas City. We've got some remote folks. And one of the things that I'll highlight is you mentioned 2020. You can imagine our model. We help organizations save money on when they actually spend and buy product and services. So if everybody's moving out of offices, they're not buying as much, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. That was, I'll say, a very trying time, and we barely broke even. What's interesting about it is through the, I'll say, revamp and marketing efforts, and I'll give credit to our great team and our members, we will actually have our best year yet this year. So we haven't rounded off just yet, right? We've got 30 more days, but it's been a really, really fun ride. I'll echo what Chris has shared. So,
yeah, Anthony, go ahead, Darren.
No, you're fine.
Oh, by the way, what do you think about my KC made drip?
I like it.
My drip?
Your drip. I like your KC drip. Good job.
Am I hip now or?
Yes.
Well, I was going to ask you a question about your remote employees. Did you have remote employees pre-pandemic?
I did. Actually, we're getting rid of our office as we speak.
We did that too. So
I'm
you were ahead of it already.
Rework or shared space, I mean, so just give people some options so we can connect. We do annual planning. We meet quarterly. We've got our Christmas party here Thursday night at Rock Hill Grill. Give them a shout out. So, but yeah, remote. Honestly, if you're not doing remote in some capacity, if you can, you're good luck hiring talent and retaining it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to ask Jill and Chris about that. Is the remote is? I kind of agree with you.
Chris, I don't know. You guys. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, Anthony, I've been getting calls from a lot of banks in the last 2 weeks, none better than Bank of Blue Valley. So I'm not going to reference the other banks, but they're asking me, where deals are being found because certain industries are really skyrocketing and certain industries are not. And it's not rocket science. I was like, look for the industries that are growing. Not all manufacturing firms that they're looking to do loans for are going to do that. But what I'm saying is, if you are having one of your best years now, and there's all this pent up cash that could, for a variety of different reasons, mainly PPP, I mean, I think people are going to be spending a lot. And then to your point about entrepreneurship it's a rough gig. I'm the only non-entrepreneur on here, and I wish it upon not my worst enemy. Yeah. And to Chris's point,
but it's a bug. I can't get over it. Like I refuse not to do anything else, but.
Oh yeah. But I mean, everyone, I always get a big kick when college kids are like, well, I'm getting a degree in entrepreneurship. I'm like, that's a bad idea.
Well, I know what that means, first of all, but yeah.
Yeah. But to Chris's point of, if you don't work 12 hours a day and you can't sleep and you can't wait to get back to work and you're having fun, you just want to have everyone that wants to be an entrepreneur do 12 hours one day.
Sure.
then figure out if we want to do it. But Anthony, the question I have, and then I'll transfer it over to Aaron. How did you start finding your niche of finding organizations to do group purchasing? And what's an example? Everyone's got their home run, but what's a double? What's your bread and butter, like an example of a client that you help?
So how we got started, I've just been in this business now for just under 10 years. And I would argue, this quote unquote CEO or co-founder in my seat or anybody starting a business, you're the head salesperson until it gets to $1 million. So your first part of your question, I made hundreds of phone calls every day. And so you say, work 12 hours. I would say deal with hearing no hundreds, if not thousands of times before you get that yes. We serve this space. So it's always easier to be said. A sales background cut that way. So I think it's been a nice transition, with our business. But to find a niche and the private business, to your point, Scott, we're working with different management companies or businesses with 1,000 employees or 3,000 employees. But I'll tell you a story about a first company that I think is a fun story, and I'll keep it short, 60 seconds or less. There's a company called Acorn Foods, and they're out on the East Coast, and they service B&I and highway patrol organizations. I've actually never met them. It's all been over the phone or through Zoom, and they've got a great business, and they do a lot of food distribution. One of our contracts is with like US Foods or Cisco of the world, Cisco Foods. And we had, I cold called them, cold emailed them. We started a relationship. We started doing analysis, and we showed some really significant savings and value. We talked about the transition, what it would mean, et cetera. And the final piece, I would say, maybe it was kind of an interesting, I wrote them a note. I can't remember exactly what I put in the note, but I said, let Una fight for you. And I put this little green army man in the note. And then I put an actual acorn that I found on the ground, put it in the note. And I remember sending it to them, and I got a call the next week. And this was early on, like, hey, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm working for free. It was just me and some hot dogs in an apartment, right? So I didn't have a family and all this huge line items of expenses, which is a smart way to start, by the way. But I remember when they said they wanted to do it, and I fell on my knees in tears because I was just so elated, like, okay, if I can get one of any significance and they believe in us, gosh, of course I can go get 100 others. And today I'll say confidently, not because of me, but because of our team, we have over 10,000 active members who are participating and hopefully getting value from what we can do. So it really is. It's really silly, but it's such a win. Like, we literally can help organizations do things they can't get on their own, and there's enough economics to make it work. So
that's amazing. I like the acorn.
Right.
I think a good entrepreneur was a good salesperson before, right? So, right. All right. Well, listen, we're going to ask our regular question, but Nick, this is the second week in a row he's pinned this on here. So I think it's a really good transition as we're in December. So I'm going to ask you a 2-part question. Jill, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, boys, you listen up too, because you're next. First of all, we want to talk about your biggest win this year, but also what is one skill you're looking to develop or improve for 2022? So you have a big win then as well.
Yes. Good question. So the biggest win, I should say one of many, but one big win that we're kind of really focused on right now is the chief people officer at J.E. Dunn. Huge role, huge company, amazing place. And so it's a fun project to work on. So that's been a huge, incredible win over the most recent.
How many candidates have you, I would assume like 500 people have sent in for that position. Obviously,
there was a lot.
None of her, like 90%.
Yeah. And, do we do a really good job of being pretty strategic about kind of narrowing that pool and figuring out who we're going to talk, kind of figuring out what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So there's a whole strategy to it that they've been able to whittle it down to. It's a good, really impressive list. So what do I want to?
Can I ask a question on that?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
On a job like that, how long is the hiring process?
Usually it's about 90 days from start to finish, maybe 120.
So as a recruiter, there's a big thing in Gen Z. So I keep an eye on Gen Z because it always filters up when things trend. So since my job's in marketing, I look at what's trending up. There's a big push in Gen Z against multiple interviews and hiding salaries when recruiting and when hiring. What are your thoughts? Do you think that's just because they're young and they'll eventually conform, or do you see it kind of having to change because there's such a push against it right now?
That will be interesting. It will be interesting to see it evolve. And it probably depends on the role and the level. I think when you get to a certain level in your career, and it's, a sought after position, there's, it makes sense to have multiple interviews. I mean, to go into one interview and expect to be able to land a really incredible position that has a lot of impact and a lot of responsibility is just, it's unrealistic in today's day and age still. So I think over time, the more sought after roles, you're going to have to go through the process and rigor, and an organization would be naive to not require that. I mean, it's a huge deal to have someone in this really powerful leader. Powerful is maybe not the right word, but a really impactful leadership position, to not spend time together and make sure it's a good fit on all aspects. So I think over time it will for the higher executive level positions, there will be multiple encounters. So
what was your biggest win this year?
What
was your biggest win? So what are you looking forward to in 2022, I guess?
The one skill I'm working on to improve? Good question. Oh gosh. Probably being a better listener, listening more. I'm always kind of wanting to interject and think ahead, and I really need to quiet and listen. I need to be a better listener.
Me too.
Patient listener. That's really hard.
All of us salespeople, raise your hands. Right? Everyone on this call is probably right there with you.
You want to solve it like right away. I'm like, just shut up and listen. You'll be able to solve it if you just listen.
I don't know what your partners are like, but my partner at home is a processor. She's in the medical field, right? In a very detailed job. So I'll be like, okay, and she's like, let me just at least finish reading the question. So we actually have put a time where we come back and we both take and process and come back, and I still come back with my first solution, but then we kind of meet in the middle. But it's something we had to learn because we process very differently. And I'm used to being talking to you guys, right? So we're all like, okay, quick, next thing. So turns out not everyone's like us.
Right.
All right, Luke, what was your biggest win in 2021, and what are you looking forward to improving, or skill you're looking forward to honing in on in 2022?
I'd have to say the biggest win for us would have, quite frankly, be moving to Kansas City and reopening our shop as I had ReVera Capital open earlier as a institutional finance firm, and for some reason kept it open, but we just recently left a prior partnership I was in and relaunched, and it's been the best decision we made. And then also, more shout out or shameless plug to the city of Kansas City and what you all are doing here to try to drive a better professional network. The things I'm working on are the most important to work on in 2022 are the same as 21, 20, 19, all the way back to, pretty much as long as I can remember, are my vulnerability and my communication. I feel like if you can focus on those two things constantly, the quality of your life is the quality of your communication. And I think that, holds true. And I feel like people these days are just not open and vulnerable enough with each other, especially given all the things we've been through.
I feel like you're really good at being vulnerable and communicating well. What are you doing that you feel like you're not good, that you're not good at, that you're trying to improve, or you think you're not good at? Because I'm shocked to hear you say that. Get granular. What exactly are you trying to improve on that?
I just think it's a process that never gets done, right? I think you can always improve your communication. And I always think that, especially at times of stress, being vulnerable, and I appreciate that, Scott, because I really do focus on it. And, I ask blunt questions, but I also don't try to judge people when I ask them. So it's not coming from a preconceived notion basis. It's more so, hey, I just want to know how you see the world differently. And so, I just focus on that because I feel like if you can make somebody feel valued, then you've done your job for the day. Too many people these days are, I'd use a more frank word, Aaron, but I can't cuss on here to keep LinkedIn happy. I feel like they're just everybody's too big of jerks these days to not try to give everyone a respect and a listening ear.
You are really good at communication. I'm trying to keep up. I'm the worst texter backer, and Luke will be like, "Did you see my last text?"
I've definitely tried to be open with you, Aaron, and vulnerable, and I've probably made you a little uncomfortable with it.
Let's
Gil,
go.
to your point, Aaron and I have conversations. We both have ADD. We talk about 10 different things and don't even know what's the objective of the call.
Right. It's a good time. All right. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you being so vulnerable with us about that.
You're very welcome.
All right, Chris. What was your biggest one in 2021? And what are you looking to improve or hone in on in 2022?
Sure. So I'm going to cheat slightly. So 2 general counsel placements this year. Very excited about. Placed someone for the 4th largest ag feed company in the United States. First time GC hire, or full time, I should say. Up in Omaha, Nebraska, JD High School, HEISKELL. It's a amazing company, family owned, and they're an underdog with the big names like ConAgra out there and Gavilon. But it's a great company. And then another one I'm going to keep anonymous, but it's a family office, single family office, billionaire family down in San Antonio. And it was actually really exciting to work with them because as a single family, they're adopting the city and they want to generationally transform the city of San Antonio through food and learning. And it's amazing what they're going to do with resources and how they're going to have a long-term effect on that city. And so I recruited their first chief legal officer as they're going to get ready to do some exciting things. So that was really exciting too. That was fun.
And what are you looking at improving in 2022?
Sure. So I've been the chief rainmaker. I still am. And I've got a team who are growing and learning. And so for me, it's just giving it away. I'm just pouring into my team, learning how to scale and grow and help them be the rock stars of it all and me take a back seat. And so lead from in front and from behind and help them develop to be the best they can ever be and help them achieve their goals, really. So that's my focus.
I need to say something on the show that's going to be very vulnerable with me, but it's also going to make me seem stupid. But I feel like there's other people that watch this show, or I know there is, that don't know this. And so since it took me 41 years, I'm 42 now, so I found this out last year, to learn this, I want to tell everybody so they don't have to take so long because we have a lot of students that watch this show. A family office does not necessarily mean a building that you and your family go and work at, which was what I always thought that meant because I didn't grow up with millions of dollars. A family office is actually the business that your family has made to manage your millions of dollars that actually has employees and it runs as a business. So if you happen to have some rich friends like I do that say you want to swing by my family office, understand you're going to a business. I just learned that last year.
Good vulnerability.
Yeah, and I really did not know that. And then I would ask people, and they're like, my friends that didn't grow up with millions of dollars, and they're like, I had no idea. So that's what a family office is, just for everyone out there. So getting good with family office.
Aaron, I feel like we got closer in that because I was trying now past conversations of ours make sense when I was trying to explain certain things. And there's one quick question. I'll let Aaron transition. What about, Aaron asked Luke the question, do a lot of people come into your business? And again, and what Luke does, there are really large transactions in the direct placement world or executive search world. Yeah, they're really big, and it takes a lifetime to master, but everyone thinks you do it in an hour and they paid you a lot of money. Obviously that's not the case. But in this time, have a lot of, you've developed a niche, which is amazing. But are you seeing people bounce into this, and how do you handle it? Do you just ignore it, or what? How do you go about that?
You're talking about competition?
Yeah, competition.
Sure. So
there is no competition, but if there was,
or lack thereof, yeah.
Very, very well said. So, what's interesting, and I try to explain to people what I do, and friends, and even still family, like, what do you do? But what we do in this business doesn't require licenses. It's very similar to real estate, except it requires a license, and they're doing buyers and sellers between a residence, a commercial building. For us, we're doing it between buyers and sellers of careers or responsibilities and roles. And so there's not a lot to get in this business, but there's a lot to learn. And most people don't survive it because it's a very tough business. There's so much to it, and it requires heavy training, heavy mentoring, but yeah, so in my side for legal, I'm continuously hearing of law partners who make good money stop and become recruiters, and that's telling. And I see it everywhere. So, Scott, people don't go to college to be recruiters. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 programs in the country that offer it to teach that kind of thing. And so many times people who are recruiters are approached by recruiters because they're in a field, they know it, they've maybe got a great network, or they sound decent over the phone, and they carry themselves and say, oh yeah, I could probably do that. And so in regards to responding to that, like, I kind of don't say I have competition. I mean, I have competition, but it's I compete against the big boys, and it's fun to take business from them when I got clients calling me and complaining about them. But I understand the amount of effort and time. It's like, I don't envy entrepreneurs who are starting to be entrepreneurs because it's exhausting. The work is very hard. And there's this rosy picture about jumping and owning a business, and it's also a rude awakening. And so it's the same thing with search.
All right. Well, I like that. I love when people say I don't know who my competitors are, because I feel like then you're just focused.
It's the only right answer in sales.
Focused. Yes. Good answer. All right, Anthony. What was your biggest win, and what are you going to improve or hone in on in 2022?
Well, I kind of spilled the beans, I guess. I think recovering from last year and having our best year, I think it's a big deal to put a stake in the ground going remote only. And then there are some Fortune 500 companies that technically were not allowed to use names, just with, I'll say bureaucracy, for better for worse, that we're really close to helping them from a procurement side for indirect spend. I'll use all the terminology, but that'll be really fun because usually we're kind of on the top 1,000 or top 2,000. So, anytime you can kind of capture those wins and help those organizations that know a lot of things and have floors of procurement people to think strategically, it's fun, especially with I would say our nimble or agile firm. So. And by the way, Aaron, the reason you get all those calls is because marketing agencies are a big deal. People are all about that, and you should embrace those phone calls because someday you're going to want to exit. Come on.
Anthony, the Business Journal called Aaron the #1 online networker in the entire city, but we also have the second part of a question of what are you trying to improve?
What am I trying to improve? So something I think it's constant is, I would say, we call it gracious candor, and I can be pretty direct, but does it always have empathy? And so I kind of a 1A of that, not only for team members, for partners, for my wife at home. Difficult conversations never stop being difficult, but I think there's a timing to that. So the 1A would be just keeping people current. I think it's really difficult as a leader, or it can be, depending on how you're wired. Hey, if somebody's falling short, but then you continue to kind of puff them up with delusion and don't give them that kind of gracious feedback, or, hey, here's the things you're really doing well. Here's a few areas you're not, or, hitting things right away. So that I've had some opportunities in my career where I've failed, and I still continuing to kind of, what I like to say, keep people current in a healthy way that has good boundaries. Something I want to really hone in on more and more going into next year.
Okay, this is something I have to work on too, and I have a tip. I wonder if you already know my tip, but I'm going to say my tip so everyone knows.
I'm going to listen.
Especially as a very direct woman, you can hurt feelings sometimes, and especially in emails is where I found myself hurting a lot of feelings very early on. There is a software called Grammarly out there, and it has become, if you do not have Grammarly on your computer, stop what you're doing right now and download it. It actually has an emotional AI part now that tells you how your email could be translated. And so it'll give, and it works in emojis, which I'm an emoji girl, right? So I try to get to like the little bit of a smiley face in my emails where it's not like the total like face. And that has worked wonders for me. Do you use that?
I love Grammarly. It helps me make sense when I write. So
also does that. I just like how I like.
And I would argue too, I think just knowing as a leader, like when does it need to be a 2D conversation compared to 3D, which I'm sure you know. So.
Right. Well, just in this remote world, I'm sure you find yourself doing more emails too. So.
Right. Yep.
All right. This is Scott's favorite part of the show. We never prep anyone for this part of the show because I absolutely hate it. So I pretend it's never going to happen, but it's going to happen. Scott loves a good icebreaker. You got 60 seconds to answer because we only have 4 minutes left. Scott, ask your icebreaker.
Short icebreaker, but Aaron, we were in a CEO group and people talked about doing the voice text message. I just had someone where a president was let go to an organization. So I called the CFO to be like, hey, I just need to know that they were a good person. You can text me back, because I can't do that in an email or text. And gracious candor. Speaking of J.E. Dunn, Terry Dunn is wonderful at that. He gets things done really quickly. Awesome. But then Aaron and I interviewed Bob Rainier, the legend of Bank of Blue Valley. And wow, I was so shocked. Everything he does is candid. So it's a skill set that I'm assuming takes a lifetime to master. Jill, where was the first restaurant date you ever went on? What was the name of the restaurant? First date.
First date.
You can remember.
Well, let me preface this that I grew up in a really small town. So I'm pretty sure it would have been to Pizza Hut. That was like our only place.
With the buffet? With the buffet?
Yeah. I think the buffet was only on like Sundays or something.
Yeah, order the breadsticks.
Took me to Pizza Hut. Yes, now I can't even eat them. So.
Yep. So Luke, not the first date, but the location of the what was the restaurant of the first date?
Oh, I had sushi. It was in Fort Collins, Colorado. I went to Colorado State, and I had never had sushi before, so I'd highly recommend the awkwardness of eating sushi on a first date. Don't do it. But also not having it and experiencing raw fish for the first time and trying to keep it together was an interesting experience.
Man, you must have really liked the person to just keep it all together. I mean, that's there you go.
Either that, or I just jump in both feet and I don't know what I'm doing most times.
That's right. So, Chris, the location of the first date.
I don't know if it's the Riegers, but I'm really struggling here. So it might have been. So I was raised in South Florida, West Palm Beach County, Jupiter, where I was living. I'm trying to think of when did I have a date back then, but so it could have been sushi. It could have been seafood. It might've been all of a blur because I was so excited to sit down with whoever I was having a date with, but
you had so many good restaurants. It's not like you can do what we did in Kansas and be like, did we go to Pizza Hut or Applebee's?
Right. Pick another chain.
It might have had dealt with the sunset or something since we lived really close to the beach.
Nice.
Man, way to crush that one.
Way to go. Anthony,
All
what
right,
about you?
Anthony.
So mine's bad, but really good. So shout out to Columbia, Missouri. Sorry, I'm not a KU fan, but I'm in Kansas City. I'll give you love. I took a date to Ryan's with a coupon. True story. High school student. Didn't work out, but she's a great gal.
Aaron, have I asked you this question?
I don't remember my first date, but I have a real quick story. My best first date ever. I was at a bar and I was drinking and I met this guy and we're kind of just having a good time. We had a bunch of mutual friends and he's like, can I take you out tomorrow? And I said, absolutely. I was 22. I was a whole different person back then. I said, absolutely. He said, write down your phone number because this is like, call me from another phone, right? I'm old. And he called me the next day with flight information. By the way, you should never do this if you're watching and young. But my flight was to San Antonio. It turned out it was the guy that I ended up dating for like a couple of years, but he played for the Boston. I cannot believe I forgot their name.
Celtics.
The Boston Celtics. And I was going to his game and he took me, it was in San Antonio at like the really high restaurant there. And it was a really great first date. And then it just turned into a date every single day for 2 years. And it was a good time, but
wow,
a long time ago. Wow. Whole different world. How about you, Scott? You got 1 minute.
Aaron knows a lot of professional athletes. And so she is friends with them, but she doesn't know anything that they do. And shout out to Joel Goldberg and his podcast.
Yeah,
because he's awesome. But like we just know personally how he and his family are doing. We don't know anything about the Royals. I took my wife to Applebee's with her gift card. That was our first date.
Ooh.
So it wasn't a coupon. It was her gift card because she complained we didn't go on a date, and I was like, oh, we don't have any money.
That lucky Julie. Well, speaking of Applebee's, and I'm not sure it's going to be Applebee's, it'll probably be something along the same type of level of restaurant. Scott and I are planning something pretty big. We want to change somebody's life for Christmas. That Monday or Tuesday, the week of Christmas. I don't have all the details yet, but if you want to go to a breakfast with us and you want to change somebody's life, shoot us LinkedIn messages. We will get you on our list of everyone we're going to email later this week. But it's going to be really, really fun, and we get to change somebody's life. And you get to eat breakfast with Scott Havens. Who doesn't want to do that? Shoot us those messages. I will definitely get all those names from Scott, or shoot them to me if you want to make sure we get your name. And thank you so much for coming and watching this week. Thank you so much to our incredible panel. Thank you so much to Bank of Blue Valley for sponsoring. We will be back next week, same time, same place, new panel. We'll see you later. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Thank you.